Oh, Lucy, is it?
Yes.
Hello, my name's Chester Police. Look, it's Stefan, 2 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
This arrest led to the conviction of a killer.
They told me that there had been a lot more deaths and that I'd been linked to somebody that was there for a lot of them.
Nurse Lucy Letby, now the UK's most prolific child murderer of modern times.
She's taken lives. She's tried to take other babies' lives. So whatever sentence she gets is not going to be enough.
Hiding her crimes behind a smile and an NHS badge, we can now reveal what colleagues suspected all along.
When alarms would go off, there would be a phrase that people would use, I wonder if Lucy's working tonight.
Lucy Letby was nearly 22 when she started working here at the Countess of Chester Hospital's neonatal ward. Originally from Hereford, she'd been here for around 4 years when the attacks involved in this case began. It's about a 20-minute walk from where Lucy Letby lived to the ward where she worked, and over many months the jury has heard difficult and distressing detail about what happened in that hospital between June 2015 and June 2016, about how during that time 7 babies died, 5 boys and 2 girls, and about how 10 other children suddenly collapsed and needed life-saving care.
This used to be nursery 1, also coined the hot room.
This video was taken of the ward where Lucy Letby worked. It's where a jury agreed she killed children in her care. She used injections of insulin, excessive air and milk, even physical assault to make babies sick, collapse and die. On the 9th of April, she was working here in Nursery 1. Twin brothers, child L and M, were here too. Speaking to media for the very first time, the boys' parents remember the moment baby M collapsed.
I was the first one into the unit at that time. And the image that I saw was just horrendous. That image I'll never forget. When I went down, I saw doctors around the trolley and they're just pumping his heart like a rag doll, really.
He was just crying, and I said, oh my God, what happened? And I was just praying to God, saying, what has happened to my child? I've not done anything wrong in my life to anybody, so why do I have to suffer?
I was just full of the tears. I didn't know what to think. We're first-time parents. We didn't know what was going on.
In fact, what they were seeing was the aftermath of Letby's attack. She had tried to kill both boys within hours of each other.
She was standing calm and cool, and what I can remember was at the time her body language and her behaviour totally changed. I think she was unsuccessful with killing my kids. That's why she was very annoyed with us. She thought that I couldn't kill your baby.
Police first arrested and then questioned Lucy Letby in 2018.
Okay, you have to take a seat in there for me, Lucy. I'll move that seat forward a bit.
Yeah, I've just had knee surgery. So
Oh, right, okay.
they told me that there had been a lot more deaths and that I'd been linked to somebody that was there for a lot of them.
Did you have any concerns that there was a rise in the mortality rate?
Yes.
Lucy Letby has always denied every charge against her.
I think we'd all just noticed as a team in general, the nursing staff, that this was a rise compared to previous years.
Behind that very angelic smile, there was a much darker side to her personality. She completely perverted her learning and she weaponised whatever was at her disposal. She betrayed the trust and the faith that families had. You know, when she was telling them something, they would just accept it as correct.
But over this trial, we've learnt that colleagues did have suspicions well over a year before police were called in by hospital bosses. Lindsay Artell was a nurse at the Countess of Chester.
When alarms would go off during the night especially, there would be a phrase that people would use, colleagues that I know have used, I wonder if Lucy's working tonight. And that's exactly how it was. So people knew exactly what was going on.
We've contacted the hospital for comment, But Lindsay and her husband also believe Lucy Letby attacked their son, Asa, when he was born premature and cared for on the ward. Cheshire Police say they are already investigating if Lucy Letby hurt other babies over the rest of her career. But there remains a key question: why Lucy Letby did this.
I don't know whether we will ever be able to answer that question, and only Lucy Letby can answer that. As a police officer, that's really hard to take, and it must be really difficult for the families to accept that we might never have the answer as to why this has happened.
Some also can't accept why Lucy Letby wasn't stopped earlier.
If they'd acted upon the initial suspicions, then they definitely could have stopped any more babies being attacked. There's no way she should have been able to get away with it for so long.
Lucy Letby's job was to cure. Instead, she killed and attacked the most vulnerable, her victims so tiny, so fragile, they could be carried in just one hand. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News.
How do you describe Lucy Letby?
Manipulative, without a shadow of a doubt, very cunning, someone who just betrayed every aspect of the confidence that was put in her by the NHS, by her colleagues.
I interacted with her like I did with the other nurses. She seemed keen. She was fairly conscientious. She was quiet.
I would describe her as a person as being beige. She had a normal friendship group, a family. She had a normal social life, everything you would expect somebody in their 20s to do. She used that normality and the trust that she obtained through that as a cover for the crimes that she committed, which is really hard to put those two things together and accept that somebody had committed those crimes, but also that there isn't something outrageous about them, and that actually she was operating in plain sight because she was so normal.
She was the beneficiary of this confirmation bias. People just could not rationalise how a nurse would be living with that extent of betrayal of the confidence that was placed in her, perverting her skills, weaponising the tools that she used.
It's hard to understand why someone who's given the trust and also been trained to care for vulnerable patients would abuse that trust, would abuse all the responsibility of having vulnerable patients dependent on you and actually try to harm them. I can't begin to imagine why someone would do that, what motives they'd have for doing that.
There were some triggers that were easy to identify. Boredom would be one of them. The need to be at the centre of everything that was going on. I've come across many narcissistic defendants prosecuting organised crime for years. But to have somebody as self-centred as she is, I don't think I'd seen that before.
She is a dangerous individual. She preys on the trusts of many people to commit these crimes.
How would you describe the crimes of Lucy Letby?
Horrible, horrific and evil. They are the worst crimes that I've had the displeasure of investigating in 28 and sometime years service. There is no explanation or reason as to why. It's only now when you get to an end, an outcome, that you set back and allow yourself to reflect, and you come to terms with the fact that, you know, you've witnessed evil